On today's Minute of the Apes, Richard, do you have a tease? You've been really good. Do you have one?
Nah.
Take your sticking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
What is the divine bomb?
The only good human is a dead human! Where there is fire, there is smoke.
The minute of the apes. The minute of the apes. The minute of the apes. The minute of the apes.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. I'm happy. It's Wednesday,
Yeah,
and
I
I've
know.
got Sean and Richard right across
We're like
from me.
on the last 5 minutes or so.
We're really finally pushing towards the end of this film that we've had a lot of struggles through a lot of these films, just, coordinating our schedules, getting things done, but we've obviously never had the stop downs like we've had with this one.
Yeah.
This one just feels like it's the shortest of the 5 movies, is it not?
I think so, yeah.
I think it ends up a few minutes shorter than the previous films. It just seems like it's taken us forever to get through this damned movie.
Damn dirty apes.
All right. So screw all that. No more going on about it. Sean, tell us what's happening with this amazing minute of Battle for the Planet of the
All
Apes.
right, we start minute 83 with Caesar saying, "My son," and ends with the humans being released from their short stint in the clink.
All right, here comes minute 83, Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
My son!
Should one murder be avenged by another?
Only the future can tell. So let us start building it.
As minute 83, we have a surprisingly alive village worth of apes and humans, plus a much smaller ghost city's worth of radioactive people, and no corny.
No corny. All right, visually we start with a shot of Lisa. She looks on, apes all looking on. We only have one really bad pullover mask in the background, even though before I go on, go to 3 seconds in, and I want you two to look at the one orangutan to the very far right of it who's looking almost right into the lens in a very cheeky, hey.
Hey,
I actually had a note related to the fact that as having been behind the camera, the thing and in front of the camera, you never look at the camera.
No.
And he is
Unless-
dead on staring at the camera.
unless
and I'm
you're
like,
the office in your gym, no, you never
Or,
look at the camera.
unless you're in a
Okay,
Fellini
fair.
film and Fellini
fair.
wants to do something,
but it was
you usually don't.
distracting. I'm like, dude, you're looking right at the camera, and nobody caught that.
I thought the same. But at this point, they're throwing in things, where we can obviously tell it's a shot from the ground. They're
Right.
mixing in previous shots and using them twice.
Yeah, it was distracting. He's staring right at the camera, particularly because we're supposed to looking at Lisa. And I'm like, who's that? What is he looking at me?
Now, as much as we say that, then possibly my favorite two-shot juxtaposition in the entire film starts at about 8 seconds when Aldo draws his sword, and then it cuts across his leg and his hand into Caesar, and we are really putting them in the heat of the
Yeah.
battle right together. I love that. We go back and forth with the two as we're swinging swords, as we're doing things, and Caesar reaches up, grabs Aldo's hand, and Aldo goes, oops, and falls. Now, that is we get a lovely downward up shot as Aldo falls. Then we see reactions to Caesar looking at it, and then we hard cut to Virgil and Caesar pontificating about what murder means before they release the humans back into society, and they're talking across each other.
I'm surprised they didn't put in an insert shot of Aldo on the ground dead.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same thing.
If nothing else, you do that over Caesar talking to
Yes.
Virgil and asking, did murder justify murder?
I think I said before their lack of willingness to use what are called split edits when you see something, but you're basically undercutting dialogue, what will become a new scene, so that they transition. This has to be like the 5th time that there's an opportunity to do that, and they just don't do it.
Caesar goes from knocking him off the branch, and he's way the fuck up there, to talking to Virgil 2 seconds later.
I need you to know that this 90 seconds of a little bit of the last minute and the rest of this minute is 5 freaking script pages.
Holy crap.
Okay, before we get that,
That caught Todd off guard.
No, what caught me off guard was, holy shit, Richard, that's a lot.
This is all tree.
Okay.
This is all tree until the moment that he says, does one murder avenge what I don't know.
Then let's get to that, and I'm going to pose this question as we get into it. What also bothers me is if you really watch it, Aldo just sort of leans and falls. We don't see a foot slip. We don't do anything. Do these 5 pages of script give any more things
Like
that
a
are
battle?
pinpointed
Yeah,
that actually
because-
say what makes him fall?
Because you would
Let's
think that
see.
Aldo would be the stronger one, being the gorilla, being a general, being...
Precisely.
Yeah.
So here we go. Aldo slowly raises his sword. He holds it in such a way as to suggest that he may throw it at Caesar. We see his muscles tense. Camera moves into close shot of Aldo. As they move almost imperceptibly towards each other, the branch bending and creaking under them, each knowing that a wrong move can send them toppling to certain death. Aldo swings his sword at Caesar, nicking Caesar across the chest. But as Caesar falls back, grabbing another limb close to the main trunk, he swings his chain. He still has the chain, but he doesn't in this moment. Striking Aldo, who is already off balance. Aldo falls. Camera follows Aldo down as he strikes one limb after another.
Oh,
woof.
yeah.
The sound of impact, brutal and graphic. At last he strikes the ground, writhes, lies still, and his eyes still furiously and staring. And then Caesar is exhausted. He weaves, staggers, and falls. He too hits a few limbs, but at last lands on Aldo's body, thus breaking his fall and lies still.
Wow, what?
That's almost comical. Sorry. That's
the way that's written, it sounds kind of like the end of the second of Battle for the Planet. I mean, of the new movies.
Oh.
Fighting with chains, falling and hitting things as they fall.
Oh, when he found Kova and he battle? Yeah.
That's a lot. That would be really difficult to choreograph. I wonder if maybe they were trying to, as a children's film,
keep it PG.
But we also have him shoot up,
a bus. Yeah, but they
5 minutes earlier.
Blow up somebody with a grenade.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in previous minutes, but there are very few people that you actually see get shot. The guy getting off the bus, but in every other instance, it's just bullets are being shot, but never a my gun to you death. It might be one shot, people shooting, and then another shot, you might see people on the ground, but you never see somebody except for that guy getting off the bus.
I think there's so many interesting ways that they could have included quote unquote violence without being violent. So I went and watched the moment when Aldo begins swimming and falling backwards, and Caesar lets go. He's grasped Aldo's arm and he lets go of it. Now, if we had seen that, maybe, and then he loses his balance, it would have made a little more sense. It's so small within the frame that unless you're looking for that arm to let go, you don't see that's what happened. So I need to see some interaction between the two. Whether we have a chain or not, the branch could break, his foot could slip. And in that point, couldn't Caesar, being the good leader, reach to say, I won't kill you?
Yeah.
And that would save him from even having to ask if one death, whatever in the future tells. He tried to save him. But there's not even that moment.
But if you look at at 22 seconds when they're struggling, how he wins is this. He just pushes his other hand. Watch again. You see his hand come up, and that's how he wins.
Well, let's talk about this because it's very, very fast.
Just
Caesar takes the sword. Caesar has the sword in his hand as Aldo is falling. So
there's also a continuity mistake in the shot where he's. No, I'm wrong. I am wrong.
So Aldo pulls the sword. Caesar grabs it with his one hand.
But Aldo has it in his hand as he's falling too. Because if you look. His right hand.
No, that's the scabbard.
The
scabbard? The sheath?
No, the scabbard's on his hip. You can see it as he's starting to fall.
Well, then Caesar magically got a sword.
Yeah, because you can see it in his hand as he's in both shots as he's falling, real quick.
It's regardless of all.
No,
that,
it's not his hand. It's on his belt.
That's the scabbard, right?
Yeah, he has like 22 seconds. We have the shot of Aldo's right hand with the sword in it, and Caesar's right hand grabbing his wrist.
That's the scabbard right there, and then if you can kind of see it blurry right here in his hand
when he's falling.
Yeah, well, but see, Caesar also has the sword.
Because at 25 seconds when Aldo's falling, you can, if you really look, you can see there's a sword in his hand. He still has it.
Okay, I see the sword in his hand there. Yeah, I see it there.
I hadn't looked at it that hard until then. So also he falls, and we don't get the shot of him on the ground.
Filming this to see.
Yes, we are. If you don't want to show a body, we talked about this with Cornelius, have people surround it quickly and just see it laying, and you see hints of it.
Nothing. They shouldn't be shy about showing a body.
We cut to Virgil and Caesar suddenly on the ground looking down, and the comment that he makes, should one murder be avenged by another, suggests that Caesar killed him.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That I murdered him.
I didn't get that. It looks like he just fell.
Well, again, I think the magic second hand tap is what did it.
Well, okay, so instead of it murder by murder, why can't it be, why does death always have to follow death? Something like that. Talk about that it seems that if we kill, we almost need that. And then make a comment about why society feels the need of eye for an eye, tooth for tooth kind of thing.
Should one murder be avenged by another? But it didn't feel like
It's not a murder.
Didn't feel like a murder.
No, it didn't feel like murder, yeah.
It just felt like a slip.
Plus, would you want at this point to have your main character, your protagonist, the one that was supposed to be the pacifist, have murdered at the end? I mean, you understand his justification.
Defeats everything that he's been fighting.
You understand his justification with the death of his son, but we're at the point now where we're trying to move past that, right?
Sean brings up a really good point, and when we get to it, Richard, you'll see that with the new films, they re-explore this ape shall not kill ape idea.
Philosophy, yeah.
And the battle that comes with that makes complete sense of why they're doing it, what they're doing, and they don't do a lot of talking. This one, I almost feel like it needed Caesar to be pontificating on our society will not tolerate this. Come down and face your judgment. Instead of Caesar now being drawn to a point that I think is wrong for his character. I think over and over with his character, he's been pulled in places where really he should not go as our protagonist. With like you asked, do you want him to be a murderer? The question is now, did he murder Aldo? We don't see it that way. They're implying that.
It would almost work if we could flip the two dialogues, have Virgil say, should a murderer be avenged by another, and Caesar saying only the future can tell us, let us start building.
What the fuck is the future can tell mean?
I mean, we're still having a mixed issue with this movie about what Caesar wants to prevent from watching the archive footage and what they become and the mutants. Like, there's still kind of something mixed and all that. And I think they're trying to get back to this idea that they would want to stop what he saw, what the two of them saw, because Virgil would have seen it too.
Then why isn't that the conversation? My parents were murdered. Why does this always have to be? That's such a deep comment for him to make. He's seen his parents. He could have seen their dead bodies. And now it's resonated here that even as he tried to be a good leader, this happened. They're on the right path. There's a conversation to be had. It's just not the right one, in my opinion.
It's very simplistic. Maybe it's meant for. There's the intention to put a lot of meaning and powerful in what's happening,
right?
But they're just lines that don't really connect ultimately.
I think that you go back to the first film. The first film was so well thought out from a standpoint, and obviously, it's based on a book, and there was a lot of things that go along with it. But this idea of how evolution changes, but at the same time doesn't change much of anything. It's almost like, and I get it that they're building on this idea of telling an ongoing story. It's just that they didn't think of how this could resonate across. This isn't, to me, this is not a grand enough statement to be the final film of a 5-film series.
Yeah,
it needs to be something much deeper.
I get the idea that maybe they intended on this, how do we prevent the future idea, and that's what they were trying to go with.
You're probably right. That is where they want to go.
But if they're doing that, they haven't. There are whole conversations they need to have about free will and predestination, and can we change the future? And if we change the future, what does that do to my parents? Do they exist? Does that mean, do I exist? I mean, that's all the stuff they should have been talking about.
And we had the possibility, because we were introduced to